Wow. 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 Okay. So I had just taken the thumbnail and everything. I was about to go live, and then it was like, you can't go live right now. Try again or finish. And it had the little, it was like the cloud with the line through it. Like I wasn't connected to the internet. I was connected, but I did notice that my laptop wasn't plugged in. So this would have died very early in the live stream. So then I just had to like refresh it and stuff. So anyway, iced coffee chronicles, and it's almost gone. So the point of this today is we're gonna look for a few things. The Five of Swords came out recently in the collective part of the powers of two and three, I believe. With I think the Archangel Commander was there, the Queen of Swords, and something else was there. There was a bunch of cards, and the Five of Swords for a hot minute has been coming out with an energy that I would necessarily say is typical of how I hear the Five of Swords. It's been more so like from the outside, it would be perceived probably as how the Five of Swords typically is read, but meaning like it's an overexertion of force, too much for whatever the situation calls for. But something about it felt necessary, especially under the tutelage of the Archangel Commander. So then I'm pretty sure it was something about the collective powers of two and three, or the final cards that I think it was a collective because I remember talking about it, and the final cards got cut off. That's when I accidentally disconnected my headset, and if anything disconnects while the stream is streaming, it's over. Like if I were to disconnect this and reconnect it, the audio would be gone. It is unless maybe I if I streamed it in third party mode, but I'm not. Anyway, something came up that felt like I guess you could say like an empty city, ready for people to move into it. And I know it was a few years ago. I think it was early-ish 2020, maybe around March, April 2020. It could have been 2021, but I think it was around March, April 2020. There was an energy that like something about the future was blank. It was like all white, and it felt like it was waiting for people to come in and like populate the space or something like that. And it read as like you could say like new masters, new teachers, people who are positioned to lead the world in a direction that maybe it's never in recorded history, at least as globally as it has the potential to move forward. And so when I felt that like almost empty town type feeling, or that like scientists remind the world that clean energy is ready whenever, it was like all of the resources are there. And now for anyone who, or for those who are moving forward in a different way, where things aren't necessarily as established, there are at least resources there. So I was pondering on that Five of Swords a little bit. Like it came to my mind, and I was like, how would I define that? And especially in the Vitruvian edition of the SKT, it's almost coming across as a forced disarming. Like there are, and that's not for what the times are, not surprising. But there are powers that are forcefully disarming the powers that be in order to give us the stage or the space to decide collectively as individuals how we move forward and what this new world will look like, especially in terms of, I guess you could say, justice. So then that got me thinking. I was like, okay, well, like, and then like the Archangel Commander came out when it was like at the bottom of the deck. No, there was a Page of Swords that had came out because I pulled, I think, before and after the Destroyer, maybe. And then the Archangel Commander was there, and it was like, this is the thing that Archangel Commander has been like training you, us, whoever, for to step forward and assume like these positions to take charge in a way. And then when I did the Virgo into Libra season, it was like from Virgo season and maybe before was the decision or dedication to something that we've been prepared for in some way. And then Libra season is going to start to see things shift in a way to move things forward in a different direction. Again, like led by those people that have gone through their own internal whatever and reached whatever space they're going to be assisted. So I think that's it. Even for me myself, like especially like way earlier in my journey, like 2019, when I like was heavy into my meditations. Excuse me, there were a lot of like internal resources that are just like intuitively created in my mental way that I didn't know because I was telling Eve about it. Hey, Queen Von Shay, how are you doing today? I was telling Eve about it, and she was like, why did you do that? I was telling her about like a specific part early of my process, and she was like, why? What was that for? I was like, oh. I was intuitively led. There are some ways. Well, I guess it makes sense. Some things that I did intuitively to sort of like prepare in a way for circumstances and events, and then life happens, and then I'm like, oh, okay. So I feel like, at least with my specific experience, the intuition and life itself, um, it's pretty good at preparing us for things that are to come if we take those as opportunities to like prepare or to think about something or whatever. So anyway, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use the SKT Vitruvian and Revelations edition because I have a limited number of decks on the. I've been back to the storage unit a few times and considered getting some more, but every time I'm like, let's see. Also, I found out today that I can change the pen color in this app that I knew I should. I just never tried. I've been limited this whole time and I have no reason to be. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is it's this. This is what I'm gonna do today. This was the reminder I made myself because I was getting ready to go live and then like trying to put in my earrings. My right hole closed again. This ear, if I don't wear earrings for a while, like the hole will start to close up. This one stays open. This one, it's like, oh, I guess you ain't wearing earrings no more. Don't need this. And I'm like, girl. So I went to my mom to ask her to help me. I was like, and then I got it to, I like loosened it up to where I can just like punch through. But anyway, so the I is the initiate, the T is the tower, the S is the seeker, J is judgment, the K is the keeper. There are three pools in the SKT: the initiate, the seeker, and the keeper. And then the five is the five of swords, being that force disarming. And the reason I feel like the reason why, especially over here and from me, there's so much, or maybe like why there's more, almost like urgency or ness, rather than a. Sometimes it's a little, again, because of what it means to carve a new path, or what it means to follow your intuition and discernment, to walk with the divine in a way that requires so much of the self. Like if you think about any prophet that has gone through a certain amount of difficulty to get to where they were going, or any other characters, so many other characters in the Bible, like Noah or Job, who had to endure hardship. And like their faith was the thing that got them through it, or their knowing and their trust and belief. Like again, that's why it was the five of swords. Because from the outside, and even sometimes to the self, it can feel extreme or too much or unnecessary. But if your intuition discernment is leading you, guiding you in that way, it probably isn't. Now, I think because I was thinking of look the initiate at the bottom of the deck. What's behind it? The erudite, holy water, stronghold of Bel in the road. I was thinking on whether I'll do before and after or just after. I think for the first one, so for the initiate and the seeker, I'll read the cards before and after. The keeper, I'm gonna look at in the Vitruvian edition or in the Revelations edition because that's almost like uh, when it works out or as whatever unfolds. And I had it as regardless of like which track we're on, they both sort of reach the same thing. Again, the initiate is the overly zealous, overly entitled, educated one, the one who can be encouraged to make a lot of demands, but not back it up or not have any substance. It's the one who, I guess you could say, doesn't do the work or didn't do the work. So that when challenge or difficulty finds them, when it's time for their sovereignty to hold the line and to stand in the place of something before it comes to be, the one who may struggle. Because again, they didn't prepare themselves maybe as adequately. And again, only we would know that because only we hear our own intuition and discernment. Only we know when we're not doing the things that we've truly been guided to do. Only we know when we do whatever, you know? And then the seeker would be the one who has gone down that path. And because they've gone down that path, when their sovereignty is challenged or when it comes for them to almost like put themselves on the line, they'll be better able to. Now, again, like the events and circumstances before the moment or any moment aren't necessarily indicative of what choice or decision will be made in that moment. There will be some who are as prepared, the best of the best, when it comes to preparation that may fold. And there will be some who slacked the whole time, who, when it matters, will like stand up. And again, it's not necessarily a point of comparison. Maybe it's more so the intention from me in allowing that space. Like when the cards come out, it may not even be what I think, you know. It may be like either way you're gonna be fine. But the intention for me is again, I feel like in a lot of ways, by and large, we're encouraged to claim sovereignty and step into a power that maybe we're not taught how to wield. Or I feel like there are parts of it when you claim something, like if you're the boss, if you claim responsibility for something and there are people under you, when you're the one, like when you're the boss, the responsibility ultimately falls on you. It doesn't matter what somebody else didn't do because they're not the person who's hired to like hold the burden of that weight and responsibility. They're hired to do whatever menial tasks you assign to them. And whether they do it or not, you should know and you should be able to fill the gap as the one that ultimately holds responsibility. Almost like because it's your name on it, right? And again, I feel like in general, we're so quick to put our names on things, but not necessarily as quick in general to take that responsibility without blaming whoever and whatever. You know what I mean? Also, there are many other things that are specific to you as you've been guided and intuited, as you've been guiding, as you've been guided and have intuited your own journey, as you've been working with the divine, your modus operandi, your method of operation, what's important to you, what's core and critical to your practice or whatever. Like it's going to be different for different people because there are different roles and everyone does something different. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's why I have the two paths. Um, because again, I don't feel like we necessarily have to like co-sign everything or spearhead everything or be involved in everything. You know, I think it's okay to be involved in the things that either you truly care about or that you're like led to be involved. So, Six of Cups and the Archangel Commander. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna do before and after the initiate. Actually, I'm gonna ask my one of my favorite virtual assistants. I wish I had Siri. This feels like a question for Siri, but my iPad is somewhere. Anyway, so I guess we'll have to settle for we'll ask Bixby. Let's not ask Bixby. We'll ask Google. Heads or tails? Heads will be the top path. The initiate. Tails will be the seeker. And I think I'm gonna read through one of them. I kind of want to read through the seeker, but again, like when it comes to certain things on the spiritual path, you could say, or when it comes to certain things in life, like for example, like twin flames, or like the 144,000, or like being chosen, or being a star seed, or whatever. Like they're so fantastic, like emphasis on the fantasy and fantastic that like who would come across something like that and not like resonate with it for one or want to? Who would not want to be destined for this love that transcends lifetimes, this other half? And like that's the reason, like this is the reason why you've always struggled to fit in. For anyone who has struggled to fit in, who wouldn't aspire to that? You know what I mean? Like who wouldn't be just completely absorbed by that? But then life happens and sometimes we find out what isn't for us, sometimes we find out what is for us, sometimes things are a lot different than we thought they'd be. And again, I don't know, maybe it's not, maybe part of the whole, no one asked me to be their discernment, so I'm releasing myself from the responsibility I'm taking on. Maybe I shouldn't even read the initiates back because through principle of magnetism, according to what people say, it wouldn't like they wouldn't find this if it wasn't their path. I don't know, I would just really hate for someone to put themselves to burden themselves in a way that they don't have to put themselves in a position for something or something that they're not necessarily ready for. But at the same time, if it is my desire to encourage question mark those whose path that is, then maybe I shouldn't worry about it. Because at the end of the day, we all use our own intuition and discernment. And if it's not for us, it's not for us, regardless of how much we want it to be. And there are principles that's like You wouldn't have found this message if it wasn't for you. You wouldn't have been guided to this if it wasn't for you or whatever. But the algorithm is the algorithm. And no tea, no shade to anybody. But there are some people who claim to have specific messages, but then like you tag up the video to suit the algorithm, the same algorithm that pumps stuff out. So maybe if we were to leave the message as the message and not engage the algorithm, it would have a better time of not finding those who it doesn't resonate for. But at the same time, that's not necessarily conducive to channel growth, to followers and subscribers, and to maybe for some eventually like dollars. Because under that guiding principle, I mean, and then you could say the journey is the journey. Challenges and difficulties and hardships that we find, sometimes maybe they're meant for us to go through. But there's a whole bunch of people that were attracted to a whole bunch of things in different arenas in the spiritual community, at least since I've been here watching YouTube since like 2019-ish, 2020. How they're like really about it in the beginning because it's resonating, but after some time, it's like, yeah, I was going through this and going through that, and I found out it wasn't for me. But again, sometimes we play off of or play to what is popular. We play to the algorithm to get stuff to circulate. So what is it? Which is it? I don't know. Anyway, it's just again, I don't want to be, but people are gonna take it how they take it anyway. I don't know. That's also why I don't tag or I don't title my videos until after. Especially if I know I'm doing something like I pick a card or something like that, because I know that certain titles will circulate, and I was trying to fight circulation. That probably ain't gonna change anyway. It's been like 20 something minutes. I just feel like it's important for me to disclose, I guess, why I'm choosing to do it this way instead of just doing it, or why there are multiple paths, or why I don't feel this, why I feel the Five of Swords in the way I feel it, why I think in some circumstances and instances it's possible for us to make the wrong choice. Ultimately, we're going to get where we're going in life, but depending on circumstances and situations, if we don't make a certain choice in a certain timing, that potentiality becomes close to us. Now, in the parallel, in the multiverse theorem, there is a lifetime, there is a parallel universe reality where you made that choice. It just wasn't for your conscious anybody. Anyway, I'm just gonna get started with the secrets path because that's what I was feeling. We're gonna cut out Google, and then afterwards, if I do the initiates, yeah, it's just oh look now the seeker is with judgment. These are literally the two cards I was looking for. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close my eyes and take this card. I'll show you, I guess. I'm gonna put it face down so I don't see that that's judgment, and then I'm gonna do the same on the seeker, and we'll see how they match up with the cards that I'm gonna pull because those are my two clarifiers. And then when I go for the Five of Swords, now if we follow the path of the Archangel Commander, regardless of if we do or not, the Five of Swords is what we do. Again, it's that force disarming or it's the disarming. It's when we basically exercise our free will under the claim of sovereignty to move a mountain, to petition the divine to move something, to go against the flow of what is naturally occurring. I chose the tower for the initiate because without the core strength, yeah, without the core strength, it can be difficult to carry something out fully. And then at a certain point, we just sort of like surrender ourselves to how things work out. And that's the tower. It just like almost kind of just happens. Like we may initiate something, but again, like we just start it. We don't necessarily finish it. It plays out. And then judgment is for the seeker because that's the one who's like involved, who carries the project to term. And so they're like more active and sort of sit in the role of that judgment. Not as the ultimate judge, but you know, as one who is participating. And again, they both get the five of swords because regardless of what we've done or haven't done, we as humans have the tendency to just be like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. Like, oh, I believe that, I'm gonna claim it. But again, like I said before, I would be careful of like claiming sovereignty in a situation if you're not prepared to stand alone and to stand against uh, what seems like the natural occurrence or a natural sequence of events. Because when you claim sovereignty, regardless of how things play out, for the same way as like people who claim to be healers, like if you claim to be a healer, don't be surprised when people who need healing find you. You know, or whatever we claim to be and do, especially when we try to use some kind of spiritual authority to make it so. And also, like, you don't have to claim to be something to do. You can just like be or do. Eight of Wands and the Six of Pentacles. All right, we'll go with two and a cut. I'm gonna look before and after the initiate. I'm gonna shuffle this up. Oh, sorry, the seeker. I'm gonna look before and after the seeker. And then I'm gonna look before and after the Five of Swords Hector in this deck. I'm gonna put the Hector back in the deck because I'm using it for both. And then I'm gonna take the card after Judgment. Um, and then I'll do the same for the Initiate, and then for the Keeper because the Keeper is where those 2 points merge in a way. I feel like it shouldn't, but that's how we're gonna do it. And maybe that's like ultimately it's gonna work out the same way, but our journey from start to finish can be different depending on which path we take. Cool. Looking from the bottom of the deck, first three cards: the Corruptor, the Malaise, and the Emperor, which is Seven of Cups, Nine of Wands, and the Emperor. Looking before and after the Seeker, and I'm gonna do it well. So before the Seeker is the Keeper. Before the Keeper is the Vagabond. The Vagabond is that thing within us that is divine. So before the seeker even starts, it's like the seeker has already found that piece of it and has come into a certain mastery of it. The keeper, the seeker, and the warrior. You know, I wait before the keeper, the seeker, the warrior. And then we're gonna come over here. Hey Holly, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, 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 yeah. And I think sometimes it's like again, we claim sovereignty and then things happen in life and we feel tested by the universe. And it's like you claim sovereignty in this situation. Like Like, what do we think it means to be sovereign? Like, we just say that we're sovereign and everything happens the way that we want. Maybe if we were purely spiritual or purely in spirit, purely energetic, but on earth, there are seasons to things. Sometimes you have to go through the death of winter before you experience a rebirth in spring, so that next summer is different from this summer. It's not like necessarily all of a sudden these plants disappear overnight and whole new plants come up and history rewrites itself overnight, and you know what I mean? Earth is, it's denser, it's slower, it's transitional. It's a process with a lot of things. Anyway, I'm doing well, I guess. I got some dental work done yesterday. Things are moving, apparently. I'm just like, okay. And like this, I've had my dentist change. I meant to timestamp this. I'll say about 25 minutes. Um, and as I've like switched jobs and as my insurance has changed, I've been floating from dentist to dentist. And this new place, they like to apparently get as much stuff done in the same day as they can. They're like, oh, while you're here to do this, we can also do that. And I'm like, okay, all right. But I have my HSA padded, so I'm glad that it's not coming out of pocket. Like I've already paid for it, essentially. A card flipped out, and it is the Emperor, the one who is sovereign, right? And then the Archangel of Glory is at the bottom of the deck. I'm not gonna take them, but I'm gonna give it one more shuffle and cut. We're looking before and after the Five of Swords. Archangel Commander is on the bottom of the deck now, because of course, with the Dynasty and the Giver. Archangel Commander, the Dynasty, and the Giver. Archangel Commander, Ten of Pentacles, Six of Pentacles. The Six of Pentacles was just, I just saw the Six of Pentacles with something. I think I mentioned it, maybe. And again, the Five of Swords is the one who claims sovereignty and uses that sovereignty to stand against the turning of circumstance in one situation and for in another. The warrior here is with justice, by the way. Justice and the Nine of Cups, sorry. And then after the Nine of Cups is Judgment with the Outlaw and the title card. After that, Judgment, and then the Healer on the other side of that title card with the Initiate after that, and the Emperor after that. But yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm not in like too much pain. If anything, maybe a little sore. Oh, 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 oh. Before the Five of Swords is the Tower. After the Five of Swords is the Burdened One, the Ten of Wands. Now, on either side of that, before the Tower is the Destroyer. After the Ten of Wands is the Blind Seer. After the Blind Seer is again that Five of Cups, the Grotesque, the same one that is here. Now, the Destroyer in this deck is an individual who, again, like who, when they claim like a spiritual sovereignty or when they move in a sovereign way, they integrate their like soul and spirit, and it works in conjunction and harmony with the physical self. The two extra pair of hands are like related to the soul. This is a shaman that embodies powers of the divine. Also, there are purgings and periods of darkness that this just that the shaman goes through that makes the vessel better capable, increases the vessel's capacity for holding light. And then the dark horse is behind that. And we literally just talked about the dark horse and how you see basically the archangel commander up there while this one is wielding the sword down, or like a patron deity, right? Like how you'll see with the angels, God, the healer of whatever. So if this is someone like who is a healer in the seven of wands, then that would be like the angel or the aspect of the divine that is associated with healing. That is like it's like was it the Page of Cups? Yeah, it was the Page of Cups that came out for Libra season. And backing the Page of Cups was the King of Cups, the stronghold of the waters, or the herald of the waters, with the Archangel of Healing. So similar. Also, in the tower, there is the axe of Shiva that removes corruption. We started with one of the first, I think the first card out was the corruptor. Here's the corruptor, and this one who invokes sovereignty, they actually come with the tools for removing that corruption. I think though, because the tower is here, there is less a question and more of a matter of what is built upon that corruption, right? Like if something isn't necessarily rotten to the core, but if the disease has spread like far underground, then when you like heal and remove that disease, everything that is built upon it will shift. And depending on how the Jenga tower is assembled, when you remove these blocks, things above it can like come tumbling down. Almost more like a side effect. To the initiate, it may be more of a side effect, but it feels like to the seeker, there's at least some inkling that like the seeker wouldn't know everything, but it feels like the seeker would have a better idea of like, if I heal this, if I go through with this, it's gonna cause some shifts that could destabilize the whole thing. Again, it feels like I don't know, the initiate is just a little bit more naive, maybe in that way. Or the initiate may be someone that's like, oh, I know this is gonna destabilize things, but they don't suspect to feel any of it. And so when the destabilization sort of like hits them or in the periphery, then I don't know, they feel like betrayed or something. It's more shocking and surprising, right? Like, oh, I didn't know that when I claimed sovereignty and when I wanted to choke things up, I would be affected. It's like, yeah, well. And then it's the question, the follow up of once we know that we're affected, do we continue down the path of that healing? Or do we stop and go like, oh well, like I didn't know that this would come for me. I don't want this anymore. You know? All right. Now we're gonna look after judgment. Excuse me. First three cards, Archangel of Mysteries, Holy Water, and the Chariot. Angel who illuminates shadows, the purifying, and then Chariot of Osiris. Osiris the resurrected. After that is the priestess, Sanctuary of Isis. Chariot of Osiris headed for the Sanctuary of Isis. The Sanctuary of Isis. And then the awakening with the lovers after that Sanctuary of Isis. Okay, girl. Somebody saying something, something. Judgment, Apocalypse. So before Apocalypse is the giver. Again, that Six of Pentacles. And then its apocalypse after is the stronghold of the veil, which is Herald of the Darkening. After that is the Nine of Pentacles. So we are between the Six of Pentacles and the Nine of Pentacles. The Eminence and the Giver. The Empress. So pre Empress energy, full Empress after that Eminence. Interesting. So that is these. I'm just going to go ahead and go for um, the path of the initiate. So that's going to be before and after the initiate. I put the Five of Swords back in the Revelations edition, and then we'll pull after the Tower. All right, two more. And a cut. The Joyous One, the Dynasty, and the Archangel Commander. Ten of Cups, Ten of Pentacles, Archangel Commander are the bottom three. And then the Nocturne and the Wheel of Life is after that. There are two Wheels of Life in the Nocturne. One associated with the north node, one with the south node. So the zodiac, like the wheels are upside down. And it's kind of like a new world, a new way of going about things, or the same old same. The same old could actually wax worse. It's almost like it's either better or worse. And it's because of the unfolding of things. Yeah. Putting it off. All right, the initiative. Wait, was that the initiate? It was. So after the initiate is the healer. We have the initiate here. Before the initiate is the ebony shield. Interestingly enough, again, before the card, before the fool that we're looking for is the grotesque, the Five of Cups. It was before the keeper, that was before the seeker, and now it's before the Queen of Pentacles, ebony shield, that's before the initiate. And both sides is that Five of Cups. Before the Five of Cups here is the corruptor and the high priestess. Before the corruptor is the Nine of Cups, the wish granted. Before that is the Queen of Swords, the heir of the Empress. Um, After the Five of Cups, or after the no, it was before the healer. Before the healer was the grotesque and the priestess, high priestess. After the ebony shield, so I need to change the way that these are laid down because it was the healer, the initiate, the ebony shield. Yeah, before boom. Um, it's the memory keeper after the ebony shield. The interesting thing about the ebony shield in this deck, to me, is that she is my divine temptress card. The divine temptress with the Six of Cups, Page of Wands, Nine of Cups, Five of Cups. Ultimately, oh, let me leave these here. Ultimately, it sort of feels like, regardless, it's almost like the divine can use us regardless, right? And that's the thing about um, it's kind of sort of what we do for one another, and it's also how resourceful we can be, if resourceful is the word. It's almost because like nobody's perfect, right? And even when we position ourselves or are positioned, rather intentionally or not, there's things that we can help each other with. Almost in time. I don't know. I don't know if I'm communicating it in the right way. But like, let's say that there's someone that comes into your life that is so instrumental, that is key to getting you through a challenging and difficult period in your life. And maybe at that time, like you kind of idolize them because you're like, oh, like this person is so whatever and they're helping me through. So they have to be like better than I am. You don't have to idolize them, but that person who was in your life, they help you through whatever it is that they're helping you through. And you get through it, but then you turn around and you see that there are stuff that they're going through. If you idolize this person, then it's maybe like, wow, like I thought this person would be perfect. No problem. I go live for a while. I'll probably be here for a few hours. Um, so then, like, depending, because everyone's human. Maybe you're like, oh, well, that person's human just like everybody else. Maybe you held this person, and you're like, oh my gosh. But it's like, despite what that person was going through behind closed doors, it's like they were still able to help you, despite what we're going through within our own personal lives. We're still able to help one another in whatever way we help one another, right? You don't have to be perfect to be used by the divine. You don't have to be perfect to be a channel or whatever. But this divine temptress, it's almost like it's using temptation in a way, almost like a prosperity gospel manifestation, whatever. It's like the desire for abundance or for love or whatever can be used to plant a seed, to establish a connection, to start someone along their path. And it's like the divine knows that. And so sometimes, you know, maybe that's what happens. All right, gonna shuffle this up. Look before and after the Five of Swords again. Oh, good. Now the Five of Swords is at the cut with the Five of Pentacles, the Vagabond. And boom. We have the Outlaw, Apocalypse, and the Imminence. After the Imminence is the Priestess. Hangman, Judgment, Nine of Pentacles, and High Priestess. The Priestess is like all over this. Here we go. So, Ace of Wands, the Awakening, the Five of Swords, and the Seven of Pentacles, the Gardener, Seven of Wands. After the Gardener is the Corruptor. Now, in this deck, the Axe of Shiva is here with the mirror held up to it. And then, so in the SKT, the Seven of Cups, each cup is linked to one of the seven deadly sins. And so in this deck, it's almost like none of these choices are the right choice. It's more so like how our vices sort of like lead us and guide us. But that's between both of them. Like that's the animals that like symbolize the seven deadly sins, and each one is tied to a cup. But with the acts of Shiva that removes corruption, when we're able to look at our own, like what motivates our desires, and when we're able to sort of like keep that in check, it remedies these. It feels like it remedies the cups. Now, what's interesting is before the hallowed flames, again is the ebony shield, sanctum of treasures, the same ebony shield that is here. And under the ebony shield is the scarlet shield, Queen of Swords, the heir of the Empress, who was not too far from, I feel like, where we saw her before. And I'll put the Hector back because I just want these two. Now, again, so this feels like, regardless of the path that we take, either way, it's going to work out. And that's why I also love reading like this because, and Patrick, mine sometimes it's a little bit more polarized, but again, that's not how it always is. I like to leave space for me to be wrong, right? Because it isn't necessarily what Patrick thinks. Three of Swords and the Necromancer. The the moon was with that Three of Swords. The moon was at the cut after the first shuffle last time too. Interesting. Oop, the Five of Swords and the Lovers just flipped over. Mystery of the Covenant and the New World Order at the bottom of the deck. This feels like something akin to like Libra energy, which is interesting because it's the one air sign that's not here. We got Venus and Aquarius and then Gemini, so there's no Libra here. But it was the part of Libra that, in an effort to balance something, sometimes it can act prematurely. It's like, and not just in the energy of Libra in general, in the energy of us as humans trying to balance something, more so we don't know what it takes for something to come to balance, especially when that something involves other people. And so just because it looks like something is going a certain way doesn't necessarily mean that it is. But we can actually, like, we can make a good faith effort to do something to shift things in a way that we want, but it can actually work against like what we want it to, right? Like, let's say, for instance, there's someone in your life who you know is in need of help, and you offer them money, and they get upset with you, and it frays your relationship, right? And you're like, oh, well, like, you needed money, you were in a financial bind, so like I did this for you. Like, you should be grateful, blah, blah, blah. I did it because like I care about you, blah, blah, blah. But to them and for them, it's like that's not the way that they want to get where they're going. And so maybe for them, it would be better to like, hey, like, I know somebody who's looking for somebody to work. Your name came up if you're interested, because then at least that way they can make their own money. They don't need to be given the money. You know what I mean? It's like the job that would lead to would be better. Sometimes it's knowing somebody. Sometimes it's a whole bunch of stuff that we don't even know. The point is, we try to move. to make something better, but kind of end up making it worse. We do that a lot. But because this path played on desire, it complicates things because now the good that we do is measured against what we desire with the path of the initiative. If that makes sense. I'm looking for the tower. I'm taking the card after the tower, just like we took the card after judgment. So before the tower is the angel, but again, we're only taking the card after. So it's the tower and the malaise, nine of wands. After the nine of wands is the archangel of mysteries. So before the before, the angel, after the after, archangel of mysteries, angel who illuminates the shadow. Um, I feel like in pulling the cards, I kind of read these enough, and it's already almost been an hour. Excuse me. Exactly. Now let's. I wanted to get the keeper in this deck. Oh, I still needed to pull. So before it felt we remove ourselves from this. So first the discerning one turned over, and then the three of pentacles and the queen of pentacles, the mason and the ebony shield flipped over. For the path of the initiate, I was originally feeling it um, like we start something, but then we sort of like back off because we can't see it all the way through for whatever reason. It's almost reading more like we're removed or displaced. Oh, and the five of swords is here. So before we even, and that's why the tower is like the thing that it just sort of plays out however it plays out. I think it's because the initiate is displaced before something really comes to fruition. They're forcefully disarmed, displaced. And that's the thing, because like it feels like their egos are bruised in this five of swords, but nobody's hurt. This Hector just came in and like forcefully disarmed them, took away their ability to do whatever, to cause harm, because that's what people do with swords. Um, and I think again, like here, the initiate is displaced because of what they desire. Their own personal desires start to get in the way of the greater, grander thing that is happening, and then they go through this tower. It's almost very let he who is without sin cast the first stone, but it's how quick we are to call justice down without a full recognition of where we ourselves are positioned. Because when major arcana justice comes down, it rules on everything. It's not just like we can't necessarily go to major arcana justice and be like, I didn't ask you to judge me, I wanted you to judge them. It's like that's not how this works. You call down justice, everything within a certain radius, within a certain vicinity, gets judged, including the person who called it down. You know what I mean? And again, like this is because it's when personal interest begins to conflict with the greater collective good, for example. And then it's just the tower. Because I think for some, sometimes whenever things go well, it can play on that internal corruption. It's like, when people think that they can get away with anything and everything, then they start to do things that are like unconscionable, things that they wouldn't do if they knew that somebody else is watching or if they knew that someone with the power or authority to rule or judge would be present. But egos get big, the flame gets stroked, and then it's like desire takes over. And at that point again, that's when the initiate comes out of alignment with the energy itself. And when the initiate comes out of alignment, it's like the access is sort of reduced. Because again, it feels like, or it's also that like sometimes for people who identify as rebels, like if our identity is more based in the act of rebellion than the principles, the truth, the justice that we're fighting for, or whatever, it's easy to get to the point where we rebel just for the sake of rebelling because, again, that's our identity. Our identity is that of being the rebel. So if things begin to shift in a way that is desired and desirable, but we're the rebel, we can rebel against the very things that we were originally fighting for. And it's because this Five of Swords came out with the lovers, excuse me, that it feels like this person, it feels like the initiate is sort of like at odds and ends up here. Because like this is things beginning to turn around and work out, but this person is like lost to whatever. Again, it's like they rebel against the very thing that their sovereignty was calling for. It puts them at opposition with it. And at that point, it's like it's too powerful. It can't be stopped. The discerning one, the sanctum of treasures. It was this card. This card came out because in the Revelations edition, the structure is already built. Like the temple is finished. There's nobody here yet, but the structure is finished. All right, now we're looking before and after the keeper. Three of Wands, Eight of Wands, the Herald of Earth, and then the Memory Keeper, Six of Cups. That's the bottom four cards. The Priestess is right behind them. The Seeker. Okay. So we have Justice, the Sun, the Seeker, and the Initiate. Here, the Seeker and the Initiate are one right after the other. So again, kind of sort of confirming that either one of these paths will lead to the Keeper. The ultimate destination is more or less the same. After the Initiate is the Archangel of Healing and the Reaper. This is what the passage to initiation, to the Reaper, things becoming new because something has been healed between the Initiate and the Keeper. The Initiate and the Secret Center. So the Keeper is in between the Shining Gale and the Demon. After the Demon is the Haunt. Before the Shining Gale is the Magus. And before the Magus is this Archangel of Healing with the Will of Life before that. And the Erudite before that. And the Giver, Six of Pentacles. Before that, before the Six of Pentacles is the Emperor and the Lovers. And then the Queen of Swords and the Ten of Cups. It goes on. It's like gorgeous. All of the cards before it are gorgeous. The cards after, again, after the is the Demon and then the Dark Horse and the Quester and the Conservator and the Hollow Void. This feels like almost like work. That's like, let's say the path to the future isn't seamless. Let's say the path to the future is full of challenge to a different future. The path to a different future is full of challenge because there are so many things that will be done in a different way. There are so many things that would go against precedent. And maybe sometimes it would be easier to either do nothing or do things the way that we've always done it. But if we're committed to something new and different, then it's going to require, like, this Knight of Swords, Shining Gale. It's feeling Gemini, which is feeling Mercury, which is feeling like ingenuity, and it's feeling more because like Gemini is like local surroundings. Sagittarius is like the world at large. It feels like it brings everything closer. Meaning, like, whenever someone's like, well, imagine if this was your brother or your sister or your neighbor, or, imagine you were in this situation, how would you feel? Like, oh, well, if it was me, of course I would want things to be differently. What's the old habits die hard almost? It's just that it requires, not only will it require us to not just do what's easy and not fall back into previous cycles, I think too, there may be a point in recognizing almost the good in a previous bad. So it's kind of like don't not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but also at the same time not doing something in a certain way because that's the way that it's always been done. And maybe that's why the discerning one is really here. Because again, there could have been things in the past that are worth keeping, or there could be practices that are sort of beneficial, that aren't harmful. When it comes to leadership and governance, maybe there are some people in positions of power that have been working towards something that is more just and fair and whatever. Maybe not every single person or every single piece of something has to be discarded. I'm interested to see what face down cards are. The politics, Sun and Aries on top of Apocalypse. And oh, look, there it is, the Shining Winds on top of Seeker. Cool. And again, the Keeper came out before the Seeker. Here's the Shining Winds that's facing down the Devil. Oh, and the Shining Winds is right next to the Keeper. Oh, well. There was something weird about the Seeker already being a Keeper. That was like, wait. That's probably also why this is easier for the Seeker. because again, like there's something that's already, but that was the thing about the seeker though. Like they're already committed to the principle or the path rather than it being based upon desire like it was for the initiate. Uh, I'm gonna pull after the stronghold of the veil to see what the message is for this path. I don't know if I've seen it. I don't think so. I'm not seeing any of the strongholds. Are they heralds? They're heralds in this deck, right? Hold up. What are all the pages? Hold up. They're heralds in this deck, so it should be the herald of the veil. Wait, I did see it. I did see it. I think I remember the image. That's the herald of the waters. Here it is. It's the sharpshooter. Oh, look, there's the politic after the sharpshooter. The politic was here with Apocalypse. The politic. Here, this page came out after Apocalypse. Cool. Again, on the path of the seeker, there are so many things that are already interconnected to how everything's going to work out. I'm not surprised. That's why it felt like the path of the keeper or the path of the seeker was more in line with how things are ultimately going to play out. But even initiates, like we all have a role to play. The pages in this deck come with messages. I never pulled it, so I pulled it from after. And it's Mercury and Sagittarius. Mercury is going to be in Sagittarius basically when the sun is in Sagittarius. So anywhere from actually Sagittarius season to like Scorpio season. I don't think, I don't know if I have actually astral matrix. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. There should be like a transit report. All planets calendar. Let's see if it'll tell me when Mercury goes into Sagittarius. Mercury goes into Sagittarius on November 2nd, and it's there until November 28th. Mars goes into Leo on November 3rd, and it's there until June 17th. So there's going to be a Mercury Mars trine. Interesting timing. So it's during Scorpio season, like the middle of Scorpio season. It may be around new moon Scorpio, maybe. Because we had new moon Virgo at the beginning of September. New moon like September 2nd. New moon Libra is gonna be October 2nd. Or is it gonna be in October? Because October has 31 days and roughly 28 days is a lunar whatever, like 2 weeks. So I wonder. Anyway, that's the timing for Mercury in Sagittarius. Um, yeah, I feel like this is pretty much um I feel like I talked about it enough as I was going through it. Maybe I'll take a picture and upload it as a thumbnail. Because we may not, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what the purpose of well, I do know what the purpose of this was. Um, I guess it's just a reminder to especially the path of the initiate. The path of the initiate is a reminder for us to check our ambitions and our desires. And if we are someone who who stands for a better, brighter future, it's to keep that in mind, maybe as our own lives begin to change. The seeker, like the same is true for the seeker, but it feels like the seeker is already sort of more aligned to the future than their own personal comfort and desire. Again, that's why they sort of like sit in the position that they do. Cool. Um, Let me take this picture real quick so I can get final comments. And I'm gonna run to the restroom, so BRB. That song pops into my head too frequently. I don't know why. Doom, da, da, 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 doom, doom. I don't own the copyrights to that song. Doom, da, da, doom, da. Anyway, let's get final cards. Let's get these final cards. It's already been an hour and almost a half. Ba-doom, 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 ba-doom. Oh, that card is for a different deck. Let's see. I want to intersperse these cards. Let me just make sure. Oh, here it is. Let me make sure all of the correct edition goes in the right deck. Yep. Do 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 do. Noises. Do 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 do. Oh gosh. I don't even know that song. I can't remember what it is. Let's see. I'm gonna ask Google real quick. Holly might know. Let's see. I don't want to get flagged. So, wait a second. I'll find the song later. Wow, I really thought that. I'm surprised they didn't like give me the song. I know there's a do 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 which is different than the da 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 da. All right, final cards. Well, actually, we'll shuffle both of these up first. All right, we're gonna get this final card first. SKT Revelation Edition. full color, more personal. We're gonna keep going until you flip something over. Clean. I want a clean fall or a clean flip. Oh, we got a clean fall face down. Interesting. Let's see what it is. The outlaw, sacrifice and redemption. I wonder if this speaks of, so within the context of this in particular, depending on the level of comfort that we have, it's almost like more comfortable. Well, you could say that the more comfortable we feel, the more we have to sacrifice in order to come to a like globalized redemption, for us to redeem ourselves as humanity, more so to one another. Um, because a lot is built upon that disparity, a lot of comfort, especially. But again, that's where personal comfort and desire could come into conflict with with a lot of justice, honestly, especially major arcana justice. And it feels like there won't be a lack of temptation or a lack of reason at some point for us to stop seeking what it is that we seek. Bottom of the deck is the Herald of the Waters, giving us the message of the Emperor, commander of intellections. Mars did just go into Cancer. We could send the Emperor all over this too. There are two things on this Emperor that stands out to me the most, and it's the bird and the Ark of the Covenant. The Covenant because it symbolizes a promise. The bird because it's both the eyes and the messenger of this Emperor. The will of life is behind the Herald of the Waters. The Sphinx, destiny turning. Inspire the prodigy. It feels like the prodigy is able to solve the riddle of the Sphinx. Like a prodigy being like a genius. Well, I guess a prodigy isn't always like a genius, but it's a genius at something. It almost feels like the riddles of the Sphinx themselves, the turning of destiny itself inspires the prodigy. Probably inspires a lot of people, honestly, especially the younger generation. It's bringing certain young people to mind who are really like, the future that I will inherit is not the present. It's like it's those young people who see what happens in the world and they go, no more, you know? But it's interesting because it feels like what inspires the prodigy sets those who already are further and deeper into their ways. Some, not all, of course. And I feel like it really is an emperor like energy that we sit in when we do. pray, manifest, hope for, or demand differently for the future. Now, with the outlaw here, it's almost this energy of like the cry for a different future has always been, but the chorus wasn't loud enough. For some time, the chorus wasn't loud enough to be heard. And other times it's like the chorus wasn't loud enough after it was heard, or when it is heard, it's not loud enough to compete with the louder voice of let everything stay the same. Or like let right. But I almost wonder if that it feels like that creates attention. The chorus of a different, better, brighter, more just future that is again, still growing louder and louder and louder versus the like let's keep everything the same. It's almost like that polarity is starting to create tension within the collective that could like tear the world apart. And it's easy for someone, especially in the camp of like let's let everything be the same, to look at the chorus of like let's change some stuff up as like a cause of some kind of like not dissent, disharmony, or separation, like agents of separation or whatever. But again, it's like with that outlaw, things were always that way. And it's interesting because it almost mirrors a more internal battle for a lot of people between like the comfortable bliss that we used to have and the burden of knowing the things that we now know, or the burden of staying aware and of challenging narratives. Like, what does it mean if this thing that I hold to be foundationally true isn't true? It's not necessarily easy. There's a lot that we can build upon things. And so sometimes it's even deeper. All right, final card from the Vitruvian Spirit Keeper's Tarot, SKT. Let's see. Again, I want a clean flip or a clean fall. Oh, well, we got another clean fall, and it's the title card. Bottom of the deck is the Keeper. The Keeper and the title card. The Keeper is the fool that has made it from the magician to the world, has integrated everything that they need at every step of the way, and enters a different kind of conversation with spirit and the natural 3D material world. Spirit and petition of spirit with the title card coming up. The title card is my mind your business card, and it's my mind your business card because sometimes it can be more damaging for us to know something before we have the capacity to understand it or the context uh, of its situation. So sometimes it's better to not know until we come of a certain age or maturity, or I want to say refinement, you know, because again, I don't know, it just is. I hope you all have an amazing whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. I hope that whatever you need along your path journey you find. I hope that if this don't resonate for you, you don't take it. And I hope that if it does resonate for you, that you see the ways in which it does for you, you know? And I guess until next time, I don't know. This has been Iced Coffee Chronicles. The coffee's been gone. Thank you, all of those who stopped by. And I wish I had more Oracle decks, honestly, at the very least. But also at the same time, I guess it is. Oh, wait. The title card, we just saw the title card, right? The title card was one of the clarifiers in the 512 for the collective and the powers of 2 and 3 because the collective got a base of 8. So, anyway, catch you next time. Bye.